screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. The hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful. Friends, welcome back to Rogue Soul, where tonight it is the winning report. All the news except we win. Remembering, of course, that we are soul first, matter second, and that we're here having this experience so that we may reach towards heaven and pull it down here with us. Or maybe bring this stuff up with us as we rise. That's maybe even better. So we're gonna look at all the news all around the world, all the things at least that I saw fit to include, and we'll talk about, seeing through any of the biases, any of the wool that's trying to be pulled over our eyes, any of the ways to see through logical fallacy and our own, miscalculations and groupthink and all of those sorts of things we always do, especially looking through whatever agendas may be aimed at us, as always. And remembering we couldn't possibly lose unless what we did was give up our soul. So just don't do that and you're good. Easy. I am having a happy 2026. Just did a New Year's episode last night. Hope you guys checked in on that and caught up with it. And hopefully you're on the same vibe as me. This is going to be our best year yet. Not because the world is going to suddenly be easy. Not because the world is suddenly going to not include all of the bullshit, but because we will be so much better at it that it won't matter. And that's how it always is. So let's continue to win together. Of course, go to roguesoul.org where all my books are, my one-on-one sessions. You can book with me there, get a tarot reading, get a healing session, do your 2026 tarot reading. You only have a few more weeks to get those in before we're done doing those for the year again. So grab your look ahead every month. You get a card. We get to talk about each month before it gets here and what you can do to best orient yourself towards it. So the 2026 readings are there. And you can also check out the shop. The Orgone is there. The classes I teach are there. You can connect with me there. Send me a message. Everything's there at roguesoul.org. Also subscribe at rogueways.substack.com. Substack's where I publish everything that I write. I'm a writer and an author first, and so that's where I continue all my writing. Sometimes I do chapters of upcoming books as they come out. I've got the channeled messages of the spiritual ancestors there. I've got all sorts of engaging philosophical, religious, historical, esoteric, spiritual teachings, just all kinds of stuff, health and wellness. So be subscribed there for free. Get most of that for free. Get the channeled messages as they come out if you're a paid subscriber. And it's also a great way to support the show, support me and what I do. So thank you all for checking out and subscribing at rogueways.substack.com. It's linked to from the site, so you can also get there through roguesoul.org. And without further ado, let's talk about the news. We've got the FBI seeming to foil a terror plot. We talk about this a lot because it's, you're always asking the question of whose terror plot was it? Was it yours, FBI? Did you foil your own terror plot? Because that is most often what seems to be happening. So maybe that's what happened again. Otherwise, what we're told is there was an 18-year-old named Christian Sturtevant who was planning an ISIS-inspired terror attack in North Carolina. He was aiming to attack Christians and in the name of Islam for jihad. You never know. You never even know if this person is a real person. I would need to have known someone that I trusted who knew him and, could say that yeah, that guy exists. And also it's perhaps likely that he would do something like this. Otherwise, I just wonder, is that an AI person with an AI background, AI documents, AI social media, and then this is just so we can say, look, they're doing something to keep us safe. Who knows? If not, good job. Foil the plots. Get them. We've got in Tehran some huge news this New Year's. We've got these giant protests going on. This is day 4 of massive crowds in Tehran and Iran, however you like to say it, saying long live the Shah. I don't know exactly how this is all going down because there's been so much foreign interference in that region for so long that it is so hard to say what is best, what is right, and who's who, and what's going on. intrigue upon intrigue for sure. Movements, even when organic and natural, are almost always then sort of redirected, stopped, or encouraged, depending on who's got power and wants something from or not from that movement. But it is big. It's a lot of people. In Iran, it's a pretty courageous thing to do. I had seen some videos of some girls taking off their hijab and letting their hair down. But when I see these videos, I see mostly men, and when I do see women, it seems like they're covered. So I don't know that it's all about that, or if that was just sort of, by chance, that those videos are also going around at the same time. 47 years ago, they said Islamists and Marxists chanted death to the Shah. And so this is, supposedly it's like the people coming back after the communist interference from Western and outside sort of influences has finally been overcome, perhaps. So if that's true, awesome. Either way, if this is the genuine will of the people, awesome. Whatever it is, even if it's like full Sharia law, whatever, if it was that, I'd still say if that's the genuine will of the people, that's what they get to do, right? If that's what people actually want for themselves, then yes, go ahead and do it. And don't bring it here, but absolutely do it in your own space. And but if it is the overthrow, right, of this sort of Marxist Islamist, the radical sort of jihadi sort of Islam stuff, thank God. Yeah, let's do it. So let the girls let their hair down, put on jeans again, and be free. I hope that's what's happening. And if so, give it all your love. We do, in this ongoing geomagnetic excursion with our weakening magnetosphere and the, approaching or crossing the galactic current sheet and the pole flip and all the madness that goes along with that, we've got this 6.5 earthquake in Mexico, central Mexico. And so, again, it's not like earthquakes are unheard of. It's the increasing number and severity of them that is a sign of the ongoing geomagnetic excursion. So far, the damage doesn't seem to be absolutely horrible. I haven't seen a lot of, massive deaths or horror. So, there's a lot of things going on around the place, the world, that have been a bit intense recently. The flooding and the, rain and the atmospheric river over on the west coast, the landslides and all of that, and now these earthquakes. But so far, not too many people have been killed by them, so it's kind of nice. I'm always surprised. I always want people to survive, right? But I'm always like, it's weird. It's almost weird that that is all the chaos in the world, all the massive amounts of stupidity and unhealed wounds and just garbage takes going around and people who just don't seem to be aware of anything, that we all survive. It's always stunning to me. I'm never quite ready for it. Seems like we should have been done with this experiment a long time ago, but here we are, thriving. All right, Swiss officials confirm at least 119 people are in a hospital and 40 are confirmed dead after a fire broke out at a bar in, I want to say Valais? I don't know, this is in Switzerland. And, one of you out there emailed me about this and said, maybe this was the death card I saw. Maybe. I do want to go back and look at December a little more closely and see if there is something that I just missed or forgot, because that's very possible. That could have been what the death card was representing. And something like this it's possible. It is a weird one. There's all these people are in this club essentially for New Year's Eve, and they had sparklers and champagne, and somehow the sparklers went awry and they caught fire and people couldn't get out fast enough. And so 40 people died. 40 people died and 119 are in the hospital. So more than that were there. That's how many were really negatively affected by that. So prayers go out to those people. What a horrible way and time to die. And that's bringing a whole different flavor to 2026 for a whole lot of people. So really sad to hear that. And thanks for the tip out there. You're always welcome to send me things if you think that they should be on the show or that I didn't cover them. Donnie fans were disappointed, which doesn't make sense. They should have expected exactly this if they knew what they were talking about. But they were disappointed by a disastrous block party inauguration with no food and no bathrooms. There was thousands of people there. who braved the freezing temperatures in order to witness this mayor get sworn in, which is already crazy. Like, is a mayor that big of a deal usually? I don't think so. But he had all these giant corralled in like pens for the people to be held in, which is very communist. And then no, they couldn't really get out. And if you could get out, you probably weren't coming back. And there was no bathrooms in any of these places. So all these people for hours and hours and hours and hours were just standing there, corralled in, penned in, no bathrooms, whatever. And to say, if this was just crowds that just happened to show up, that would make sense. But you knew ahead of time you were going to have an inauguration, and you knew ahead of time that many people would want to show up for you. And it just reeks of, it's like the opposite, but very similar, something you would expect from a communist, of that party he had after he won, the celebration that he had won the election. And the beers were $15 even for campaign volunteers. People who had worked to get him elected the whole time had to pay $15 for one beer. Like $15 for a beer for anyone is already like, wait, you're telling me you're communist and you're selling beers for $15? You don't understand communism or socialism. And but for the volunteers, so he treats people exactly as he thinks of them, which is like garbage, like trash. Whatever populist lies he's told you guys, hopefully you're all waking up from it, because that's who he is, and he keeps showing you. He's not going to stop showing you. All right. Daycares in Minnesota, those of the fraudulent Somali type, have donated, out of all the billions of dollars of fraud they've taken in, they've donated about, or at least 35 million of those stolen funds back into Democrat political campaigns in the last 2 years. Let's be clear, this fraud's been going on a lot longer than the last 2 years. Even during COVID, that wasn't new. It was just expanded at that time, and it's been expanded since then. But prior to that, Somali fraud was happening in all these blue states. And so none of it's new. It's just new how fast and how furious it's become, how blatant it's become, how they'll shove like 5 different daycares into the same exact address, but never have any children anywhere near the building. All of those things have become flagrant and have shown quickly the level of abuse that the system is suffering under the hands of these Somali pirates. And then they turn around and donate 35 million of it back to the campaign. So people have asked, like, well, how did it not get caught? Oh, it got caught. That's why we know. That's why we knew about it in 2017. It got caught. People said things. People tried to shut it down. People tried to draw attention to it. And those people generally got silenced or ignored or fired. And there's tons of examples of this. I can't list them for you now. You can go find them yourself, though. There's tons of whistleblowers who have come out over the past 7 years or more who have said this in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, in Washington State, also all over the place. But the reason it never gets clamped down on is because $35 million back into the Democratic machine is something they can't live without if they want to keep getting elected. Remember, Democrats only get elected by hook and crook. They do not get elected naturally. It's not how it goes for some time now. You have to have mail-in voter. You have to have no voter ID laws. You have to have in Minnesota, you can sign up the same day and vote that day. If you have one person vouch for you, you don't even have to have identification to say who you are. By the way, that means you could also then come right back with someone else and do it again and say you're someone else. They're not checking who's who, or if that's even a citizen, or if it's even a human that's registered in any system at all. They're just saying, oh, okay, yeah, you're here, have a vote. So these places rely on this fraud. That's why this isn't shut down. $35 million demanded it didn't get shut down. And that's how criminal organizations work. And the government is a criminal organization. If we haven't been clear about that before, you can get that through your head now. So they work together. It's meant to work this way. This is as Eric July said, a feature of the system. It's not a problem, and this is not a flaw in the system. It's a feature of the system. So, you and I should be upset, and we should shut it down. We must shut it down. In fact, if we plan in any way to have a nation ongoing, But the Democrats will absolutely stand in the way of that happening. As you've seen, the media apparatus kick in, all the CNNs, all the NPRs, all of the everything that's owned by China and the left in general has come in and said, "Oh no, what? This is racism. None of these places are. There's not a single drop of Somali fraud. And how dare you even say it's Somali? It's all kinds of people and colors." And you're like, "Well, yeah, technically, there's also like." People who are Chinese and white and English and all over the place and all over the map. Yeah, but like in Minnesota right now, it's like 85% Somali. So yeah, it's okay to know that and to point that out. And it's not racist at all. But that's their only line. Whenever they get caught, whenever they want to deflect, whenever they want to not take responsibility, they say, "You're a racist." Yeah, I bet. So that's that. And so the Democratic National Convention, I guess, has a standing rapid response choir. I looked it up. I thought this was fake. I thought it was AI. I thought, of course, no one's this ridiculous. Apparently, it's real. There is actually a rapid response choir that is somehow attached to the DNC, the Democratic National Convention. I don't know why, but they got deployed to Minnesota to stand in front of Somali daycare centers to sing. And like, that's cool. You should sing wherever you want to sing. You should sing for whatever reason you want to sing. You should sing in groups. It's so good for you to sing. And it's also so disgusting. When you see like people who are defending like the uncle who's a pedophile, like this is that energy. They're like, "Well, he had a hard time when he was a kid and he's kind of weird and he didn't mean anything by it." And like, this is that energy. You're just enablers. You're acting out of your own weird guilt complexes and your unhealed bullshit. And you're here defending literally just because they're Black. Literally just because they're African. That's the only reason you're there. You say it yourself. You say, "Oh, you're so racist for calling these fraudsters. We're going to go sing for them," because they're Black. If it was a white group of people who was defrauding the state, you wouldn't show up to sing. You're racist, and you can sing your racist songs all you want, but we see through you. It's so stupid. So Nick Shirley, of course, was the person who blew the lid off all of this. I mean, he isn't. He's the one who just caught fire at the right moment, right? There's plenty of people, like I said, who are talking about this, whistleblowing this, talking about like taking videos, all this stuff. But to get the right like algorithmic boost to get viral, I don't know what. So he's the one. He's the one. And so Nick Shirley's getting all this attention. But it's funny because they've tried, instead of addressing the problem, saying, "You know what, you're right, there's some fraud going on, we should figure that out, shut it down, doesn't matter what color the people are, doesn't matter where they came from, doesn't matter who they are, we should be looking into this, that's what the law is about, it sees no color." It's the only thing that has the right to say it's colorblind if it is actually living up to that standard. and it isn't always. But but otherwise, yeah, here's some things. And we are concerned that maybe some people are going to be racist eventually because of this or something. And like, sure, let's have a conversation about it. But instead, they're like attacking Nick Shirley. They're like, "Oh, is he a pedophile? Why is he walking up to the windows of the daycare centers and looking in? Why is he trying to look at kids? Why is he going where kids are?" And I'm like, you guys forgot who you're talking to. This is the side of people who fought so hard to actually do something about child trafficking, to stop the massive amounts of child trafficking across the border. This is the party and the side of people who actually care about children. And you're talking to someone who's literally just asking, "Hey, are you fraudulent or not?" And you can't call that pedophilia. I mean, you can because you're crazy, but it doesn't mean anything. It has no meaning. And Nick Shirley himself said, what sucks for them is they're never going to be able to get me. He said, "I don't drink alcohol. I don't do drugs. I'm a virgin. I don't have sex with random girls. I don't have addictions. So what are they going to get me for?" He says, "I believe in God. I'm everything they hate." I love it. Be so above reproach that the left can't get you. That's the lesson Nick Shirley tells us. Be so above reproach that the left has nothing on you and has to just wildly flail and pretend that it's pedophilia related to investigate fraud. I love it. All right. Oh, Biden appointed U.S. District Judge Trina Thompson just ruled the Trump administration can't terminate the temporary protected status of 60,000 immigrants. I'm sure it'll be appealed. It'll go up higher. And yes, he can. So, activist judges, whatever. What someone pointed out is it's like a 97-3 split that these judges are women. The judges who are doing this are just doing the activists, I'm just going to do this because I said so, not because it's actually what the law says, not because it's what precedent says, that I'm going to ignore. I'm going to just do what I want to do because of political reasons. They're all women. They're all women. So I'm sure that'll get overturned. We'll see. This is, do I even want to go into this? This is Jack Smith. Is talking about the testimony and the lawyers that went in front of the court to prosecute President Trump for his efforts to, quote, interfere in the 2020 election. So there's all these different cases that are still going on, which I wasn't aware of. I don't follow all these cases so closely. So he's going to challenge all the democratic norms, he's saying that Trump challenged all democratic norms. And they're saying that essentially his arguments boils down to Jack Smith accusing President Trump of participating in a fraud when he merely challenged the outcome of the 2020 election, that constitutes fraud on a legal basis. To get beyond President Trump's right to free speech, Jack Smith is claiming that Trump knowingly understood that Joe Biden had won the election. So he has to say this in order for this claim to stand, by the way. He has to convince people that Trump knew that for sure Biden had actually fairly won, but went about saying he didn't in order to start some sort of revolt or whatever, or overthrow the election. And that then constitutes election interference. So this charge of fraud underpins the entirety of the case. And the charge itself, it says, is predicated on definitions of what constitutes truthful information. And within that subset of predicate, you begin to realize just how important it is to professional leftists that they control information. It says the only way Jack Smith could prove fraud would be to prove that President Trump truly believed the information about Joe Biden winning and sought to undermine that anyway. He's in evidence for this, that he's calling into this case, by the way, are people who are Republicans, or say they're Republicans, who told President Trump that he lost. So that's the evidence he's saying. This is Trump knew for sure that Biden had won because Republicans told him that he had lost. And they're calling them onto the stand to say, yes, I told him he lost. And whether those people are trying to kind of support this case and how ridiculous it is and actually pretend like this was election interference, or whether they don't want to, but they still have to be honest and say, yeah, I said that, that's going to be what constitutes apparently truthful information. Ideally, this case falls apart. And if it doesn't, the precedent it sets is crazy terrifying. It means essentially that if enough people around you say something to you and you don't then react and act as though that's true, even if you have factual graphs and data and studies and all kinds of history and everything to go in the face of what they're saying, even then you must act as though what they're saying is fact, or else you could be held liable for whatever you say and do next and any supposed harm done by it. That's the most narcissistic garbage. It is so perfectly leftist. It is so perfectly cluster B. It is so exactly their entirety of their line, their political line, and their social behavior for years now that it's crazy. That's so exactly who they are. They're like, no, I said to you that I'm a girl, so I'm a girl. And you're like, well, I see your Adam's apple in your penis, so I know you're a guy. And they're like, you're harmful, you're hateful, you're hurting me. This is violence. You're crazy. They're all crazy. This is crazy. This case is crazy. The way they're arguing it is crazy. And dear God, let it fall apart, because this is it cannot become precedent. It's insane. So I wanted to give you a little taste of that. I came across that. I was like, this is too much. It's too much. Whew. You know, it's so 1984. It's so 1984, and it just goes into that same thing. Like, are you allowed to think? Are you allowed to think and act in accordance with your truth and your reality? Are you allowed to, in general, do that, right? Within some very general constraints that we've had set up for thousands and thousands of years, like that you can't just like, you know, start killing and going into people's houses and, you know, their lives, their property, you leave that alone. But for yourself, can you act and think? Can you speak in the way that is in accordance with you? Or can you not? Or are you owned by the external world? Are you owned by the politics and the social dynamics of the world around you? That's crazy. That's insanity. Whew. The Times Square ball dropped twice this year, leading some people to think like some weird mystical thing is happening and that everything's different and whatever. But they did it because they wanted to mark both New Year's happening, right? Like now it's 2026, yeehaw, ball drops. Then they put it back up and they dropped it again because this is the 250th anniversary of our country. 1776 to 2026, here we are, 250 is where it's at. People read a lot into that too. They're like 250 years is the average, you know, length of a whatever republic, not a republic, but empire. And so, you know, we're gonna fall this year. And I'm like, well, it's not usually that perfect. Like exactly 250 years. Like it's an average for a reason, but you know, maybe I'm sure it's a momentous year either way. So happy 2026 again. Happy 250 years, United States. You beautiful place, you. A Michigan sheriff said he witnessed something he had never seen before when inmates at his prison began holding hands and singing in unison on Christmas Eve. They decided on their own without prompting to do this song, to do this hand holding, and they also recited the Lord's Prayer. There's a video of it here. Breitbart News shared it. You can find it going around. It is beautiful. It's so cool, and I love it. And I'm so proud of them for calling that higher energy into their space. You can make any place a place of upliftment. There's nowhere that can't be brought into the light. So God bless them. And we've got these Somalis now, you know, who are saying that so crazy. It's exactly like Pizzagate, James Alefantis, the Comet ping pong thing. The Somali daycare manager spoke to the media. His business had been broken into, and what the people stole was their student enrollment and employee documentation. Basically, everything you would need in order to prove that you weren't committing fraud just so happens to have been stolen. This person is wearing $2,500 glasses as he tells you that he's not committing fraud, is just a humble daycare worker, and that all the documentation that would prove he's not committing fraud got stolen. Do you remember James Alefantis said that a random conspiracy theorist came into Comet Ping Pong, shot one bullet out of a gun, and that bullet just so happened to damage the hard drive that may have had some kind of evidence that could have proven something about Comet Ping Pong? Yeah, it's exactly like that. It's a little too convenient. I don't believe you. I'm pretty sure that you'll be found out to be a fraud in this as well if anyone is doing their job. And we'll see if they do. Again, they've got a reason not to. They've got $35 million of reasons not to. So it's hard to know. Hard to know if anyone's going to do the right thing there. So yeah, they're scrambling to cover up this fraud, and yeah, they're bringing in people now. Sorry, I was just catching up on this video. I was trying to remember why I had it in here, but um, all these daycare centers in Minnesota now are bringing in children. All of a sudden, children are there. And all of a sudden, children are there for the first time in years. Nobody's ever seen children there. Nobody's ever seen people coming and going. And now all of a sudden, these kids are coming and staying and then leaving. And they're all Somali. And so I'm sure they're all in the family. And that's very convenient too. It's as convenient as someone breaking in and stealing all your records right before someone might ask you for all your records. What's interesting as well is they're saying, oh, the only reason there was no kids here when Nick Shirley came was because our daycare is open from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. I've worked in childcare since I was, about 14 years old or so. I did babysitting. I did home care. I care for like 10 kids at a time, which was ridiculous when I was very young. Eventually, I was in actual daycares. I was working, with toddlers and infants, newborns, and whatnot. And then I moved up to like 6 and 7 year olds or whatever. And then by then I was then teaching, and so that I was teaching middle school and high school. I've taught college. I've literally taken care of kids all the way through. There is no such thing as a daycare that's open from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. No, there's not. But it is convenient that you get to say that now after you're, found some kids to bus in to try to legitimize your operation. There's no way to legitimize this much fraud. Maybe a few of them will skate through and remain daycare centers and have to keep pretending to be daycare centers for a while. Maybe. But there's a little too much evidence of the fraud and also how it's being transferred. People have found the couriers who have taken the money from the Somali daycares and healthcares and autism centers and have taken it by courier to Qatar, Abu Dhabi, and these places because they are places where they can then get it to Somalia, and that can be somewhat untracked or at least legal. And so that you can actually find the couriers and the routes and the times and how much money they were taking, and so you can watch the money flow right out of the U.S. and over into Somalia. For years now, billions of dollars. And so that's trackable too. So if the regular thinking members of society can piece this together, there'd be no reason why the administration can't or the government can't either. And they have already done so much. And it actually is another thing where it always happens, like the alternative community, the black pilled community, the people who aren't the mainstream media tend to be like, yeah, right, nothing's gonna happen, nobody's gonna get arrested, and like they ignore it when it does happen. So pretty immediately, this was already 3 days ago, Deputy Secretary Jim O'Neill of Homeland Security has frozen all child care payments to the state of Minnesota. Period. All of them. Done. That was done 3 days ago. Nobody cared. Nobody celebrated. Nobody said anything. And I continue to hear people saying, they're not going to do anything. Well, fucking pay attention or shut up. Like, don't just lie to people. Don't just like get your clickbait and get your like doom porn and get your like, oh, I've been doing this for decades and nothing ever happened. Like, well, you don't pay very close attention apparently, and so you can live in your weird little worldview. And I'm not sure why you love it so much, but it's miserable. So it says also they've activated their Defend the Spend system for all ACF payments. All ACF payments across America will require justification and a receipt or photo evidence before they send money to any state. So that's pretty extreme as well. It says they've identified the individuals that have been involved in this fraud. They've demanded from Governor Tim Walz a comprehensive audit. This is the best they can do, by the way, as the federal government so far. After things progress to a certain degree past this, there may be more they can do. But this is pretty swift action. And it says they've launched a dedicated fraud reporting hotline and email address as well. So if you happen to know of anywhere in any state that is committing fraud and you want to at least try to get something done about it, then you can definitely use that, share it around. You go to childcare.gov and find those pieces of information and just see, right? Because already this has been being done, and that's already a pretty good response. So I'd say let's celebrate that and call it a win. this is the craziest thing I've heard in a long time. It's even crazier than Somali fraud to the tune of billions of dollars that's being defended by leftists as racist. This is China. Wealthy people in China are buying American babies at an exorbitant rate. And this is why you got to draw the line somewhere. And I used to be okay with surrogacy, and I'm so not now. It is child trafficking. That's the end of the story. You can tell me a sad story with a happy ending. You're like, this woman just couldn't and wanted, and then this other woman just wanted to but did, and then they worked together. Now one of them has a baby. I get that there can be good stories here. I get that there can be people who are genuinely really sad and really want this baby. And there's other things you can do, like adoption, which is already fraught with horrors. And that's already bad enough, but it's better than surrogacy. In surrogacy, you pay someone ahead of time to conceive for you and carry your baby and then produce it for you and hand it over. That's child trafficking. Anyone can then procure a baby for themselves for any purpose, right? It's child trafficking. A baby is a commodity in this, and that's child trafficking. A baby is much more sacred than a commodity, and there has to be a line somewhere. So once I came to understand like the horrors of surrogacy, like now I just don't support it, and I don't care if there's some nice stories. Sometimes there's too many horrible ones. And then there's this. Wealthy Chinese people are buying babies. They're having surrogates create children for them. They keep them in the US because they are US citizens, because they were created by a US citizen and born in the US. And that their hope is then to raise them in a very Chinese way, even though they're not usually genetically Chinese, but they might be. Raise them in this very Chinese way that is to be highly focused on performance, on maths, on sciences, and on the and business, right? And these highly whatever, high standards, sort of high stakes, high standards sort of environments. And their hope is that they can become wealthy and have opportunities and do business with the wealthy Chinese fathers, usually, who have bought them, but also become like this sort of anchor baby, which is the whole point of the anchor baby in general, right? Is that by the time those children are 21, this Chinese citizen may be able to get easier citizenship. It's a much higher chance than if they didn't have this 21-year-old anchor baby that they bought via surrogacy and never raised themselves. So they pay someone to give birth to them, and they pay a different person to raise them, have usually very little to no interaction with them at all. It's purely a like business arrangement in order to have a good outcome for themselves economically. It's crazy. Here's what's crazier. There's people who do this, and they do this with multiple babies. So they'll do it like 5 times, 10 times, 20 times. Then the top baby buyer right now has 100. I can't remember because it's so crazy. It's over 100. It's like 120 babies and they're all in California. But California has the least laws about this. And so most of them are in California. They have the easiest way to do it. So 120 something, 150? I don't know. It was crazy. I can't remember it because it doesn't make sense. It's in this article. You can find it on First Things. It's called The Wealthy Chinese Buying Babies and American Citizenship. And it's crazy. So that's happening in our country too. I told you, China's the most terrifying place, and it is the number one threat we face on all fronts is China. And here's just one more aspect of this. Like they own our infrastructure. They own like the energy grids. They've got the production down on most of our electronics. So if something were gonna happen to those, if they had a backdoor built into them, like China's the one who's got it. They've got all the chips. They've got all the everything. They've got everything. They hate us. And they would like for us to die. So now they've also got tons of babies here. Okay. I'm skipping that one. Oh, well. Well, this is good. This is Colorado revoking hundreds of CDLs after the feds have threatened a $24 million penalty. They revoked them for people who were not actually qualified, didn't actually speak English, hadn't actually passed the test well enough, didn't have enough documentation to know for sure that they were who they said they were, or that they were the ones that actually took the test, or those types of things. Thank God lives will be saved. That's a huge win for 2026. Eurostar, which I thought was like a show or something, but it's apparently not. Eurostar suspended all services connecting the UK to Europe due to power issues in the channel, or the Channel Tunnel. It goes underwater and connects France to the UK. Is that a geomagnetic excursion issue? I don't know. Is that an excuse because they actually needed to shut it down for some other reason? I don't know. It seems unprecedented, and I'm sure was just a massive nightmare. Getting across that channel is like should be much easier. And that's that. This is interesting. The haters of the Tyler Robinson thing who say that, you know, he's not the guy, or he's a patsy, or he's whatever, and he might be. But he doesn't say so, and he's still alive, and he's still saying he did it. And so that's still happening if he's a real person and this is a real thing. But the judge ordered the release of sealed Tyler Robinson records, and I think this includes then cameras get to come into the courtroom. Media is going to have access to his transcripts and closed door hearings, at least. I believe they said that this means that they either have a more chance of getting cameras in there, or maybe it's just part of it. Either way, we've got a little bit more access to what's actually going on. This is another thing. People are like, oh, so now he's just gone forever. No one's ever going to hear about it again. And I'm like, God, you guys, like, this is how it has always, this is how court cases go. It's not supposed to be on the news all day, every day. You're supposed to, you know, ostensibly get like a jury that is somewhat unbiased and then have a court case. Like, you have to let life happen. It's not all a movie. It doesn't happen in no time at all. And it's funny because everyone's like, everything's a movie. And then also, why isn't this happening? I'm like, well, because everything isn't actually a movie. Because you've been trained by movies and you think they're reality, and they're not. And life is different from that. There's plenty of questions to ask. It's just like the ones being asked are not the ones. And like people, anyway. So that's happening. I think that's good. And maybe it'll shut some people up. I bet it won't. I bet they won't even notice it happened because they're so hooked on their narrative. Oh, this is cool. Someone made a Jeffrey Epstein connection database with 500 different nodes. So you can go in and like search for a person, or search for a company, or search for something, and you can find like all the different connections. And so, you know, it reminds me of the old school WikiLeaks dumps and different things people did with that sort of stuff too. So it's like easier for normal people to perhaps sift through. I would say if you're going to use this, you should treat it exactly like AI, and you should research. Don't just take it for granted, because who knows who has access to this, who created it, or what they may have placed in it that isn't, you know, fully accurate, or is somewhat misleading. So just, you know, if you're going to use this really cool tool, do it with some self-responsibility. So otherwise you can find this epsteinsecrets.com, and that's a cool tool. I like it. I like the internet often does free work, and what they produce is often quite amazing. So also, by the way, the Department of Justice has already arrested 98 people in the Minnesota fraud cases already. That was also another thing that happened that no one cared about. And they're like, oh, nothing's happening. Like, how is 98 total arrests, freezing all the money, stopping payments, demanding an audit, like all of this happening within a number of days after it all became such a sensation? How is that not doing anything? It's doing a lot. It's like, it's huge, actually. People are crazy on all sides of everything. I don't find rational people almost anywhere I look. You're all rational. That's why you're here. I'm sure of it. Oh, we already got that. Boeing is awarded an $8.6 billion contract by the Pentagon for 25 F-15 jets for Israel. Well, yes, the Pentagon's paying $9 billion for Israeli fighter jets, not for the US, not for our fighter jets. I'm happy for Boeing. I'm just saying, not who I want to have fighter jets. Trump says there's polls showing that half of Gazans would be willing to leave Gaza. He says, I think it'd be a great opportunity, but let's see what people want. He said, we're helping the people of Gaza a lot. Maybe it'd be good. Maybe if they want to and they like it, I'll Godspeed. They've definitely got mRNA injections for dogs and cats going on, by the way. If you were around places where people may be doing that to their pets and you felt a little weird after the holidays, that might be why. And I know some people who do seem to have encountered that. Perhaps is why I had my flare up. I'm not sure. Russia says that Ukraine launched a terrorist attack against Putin's state residents. They vow retaliation. Ukraine has denied the allegations, of course. Musk and Netanyahu had held a virtual meeting to catapult Israel into a global leader in artificial intelligence. If Israel's artificial intelligence comes from us, then I'm okay with that. Because it's ours then, not theirs. Not the other way around, right? I'm okay with that. China launches live fire military drills around Taiwan, calling it Justice Mission 2025, simulating a blockade of its ports. China's blustering over there, trying to get World War III into a hot war. Trump says a deal to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict is a lot closer in peace talks with Zelensky at Mar-a-Lago. I thought those ended. I didn't hear anything. I'm not sure. I talked about that. Now, wow, excuse me. So anyways, Mount Etna was erupting. It didn't do a massively huge, crazy eruption, but it did erupt again. It's again drawing some, scrutiny from the geomagnetic interference crew, the people who understand the solar forcing and the potential pole flip that's coming up. This is another one of those signs. It's also around a super volcano area. So if that region starts to see a lot of trouble, we could see something even worse than Yellowstone if it had a massive sort of eruption. And so you saw skiers racing away from Etna when this was going on. It seems everyone was safe. Everyone's okay. Here's a huge win. The Trump administration has halted all offshore wind farm projects after the Pentagon identified national security risks. So that's fantastic to hear. I don't even care if there is actually security risks or not. It is horrible for the ocean, for ocean animals, for ocean mammals like whales. And supposedly we're supposed to care about those things. So I'm glad. I would love to see all wind farms taken down. Oh, don't care. ICE agents open fire after an illegal bites an agent, rams officers with SUV. And I'm sure they took fire for it. What's crazy is if you watch any of these ICE things that are ongoing, you can tell how restrained these guys are. You can tell they've been deeply warned against, like, don't act out, don't say anything, don't hit people, don't do anything unless you actually get touched, confronted, or someone's like rushing towards you, and then you have full authority to act, and then that's the only time you see it. And so they're actually kind of amazing to watch. I'm kind of like impressed by this. And the new episode of Stranger Things, season 5, has become the lowest rated episode in the show's history. This is the one where we had like a 5 to 10 minute coming out story of this kid was gay or whatever, and it's the lowest rated episode 7, season 5. For this, I'm sure for that reason. People said at least it made sense with the story because, like, the Demogorgon or whatever, like, feeds on your fears, and so his fear was coming out, so he had to, like, address the fear. That at least makes sense. At least they tried to, like, work it into the story in a way that, like, people could care. It could seem to matter. But, like, we left this behind in, like, the 90s where anybody cares if anybody's gay. And so even though this is set before then and it's believable that a character would be that scared or whatever, it's still like, okay, but we don't care. Like, nobody cares anymore. And I think that's part of it. I think another part is how long they drew it out. I just think also, like, it's not very exciting writing. Like, you could do a way better job of being like, what are the fears and how are we going to confront them, and make it really like fun, engaging, and do fears that are like pretty normal, that like a lot of people can relate to, and do it in a creative way. I mean, like, you had these opportunities here and you blew them. So you deserve worse ratings than that. Not just because everyone's really sick of talking about who's gay. All right, Israeli Defense Ministry deployed the Iron Beam, a high-powered laser interception system developed in partnership with the U.S. I think they do everything in partnership with you. I think it's all just the U.S., right? It's U.S. by proxy. I think people think we're Israel by proxy, but I'm not sure which way it's going here. And so in Washington state, they're reducing the sentencing requirements for pedophiles. So that's great. For some reason, it's all women doing it. So it's, I don't know, women are supposedly supposed to like love and protect children in general, have like a mothering instinct, but not in Washington state. In Washington state, they're like, you know what? Like, let's just let the pedophiles have the kids. Okay? Like, let's just try that for a while. It's a psycho people. Washington and California, like, I don't know how you guys are living there still. I left a while ago. So, in Rasmussen reports, we're learning. I think we've already learned this actually, but it's about the Smartmatic voting machines, and whether or not they can be sort of altered, hacked, or used to, steal an election. Well, in this news, it says the Smartmatic system can be altered. This is a fact. This technology was exported abroad, including to the United States. Regime operatives maintain relationships with election officials and voting machine companies inside your country. This is the former head of Venezuelan intelligence, by the way, that's saying this. He says, I do not claim that every election is stolen, but I state with certainty that elections can be rigged with the software and has been used to do so. As a former head of Venezuelan intelligence, again, and a lot of people are like, why are we in Venezuela? This is crazy. It's all about oil. And I'm again like, hey, let's get out of the 90s. This isn't the 90s anymore, guys. I don't know why we keep trying to be stuck there, but we're not. Not every war is about oil. And sure, there's oil in Venezuela. And yes, we took an oil tanker, but we took an oil tanker seemingly to smuggle out the opposition head, that lady who won the Nobel Peace Prize. She got onto that tanker, and so we took it so that we could have her safely out of Venezuela. So that wasn't even about oil. People are like, what are you going to do with oil? And he's like, I don't give a shit. That was not the point. The point was not the oil. Like, we've got plenty of oil, dude. It's this. It's the Smartmatic voting. It's the cartel of the suns. It's the people who have been working with China in order to undermine our country for decades via our elections, and also the rest of the world. And now we've got the former head of Venezuelan intelligence, outright saying this with certainty and providing these documents to the authorities. So, I mean, I don't know. Get with it or don't. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. I think that's all I wanted to say on that topic again today. I think the reason too why people are averse to that is they think it's like a Q thing, and I'm like, this is not a Q thing. I wish Q never existed, because it fucks people's heads up so bad that they then cannot think about things. Like, they're like, oh, I can't touch that because I'm Q. I'm not Q. Or like, at first it was just every conspiracy theory was Q, which was crazy. Now it's just like, if there's anything that could even potentially be eventually made to seem as though something Trump did might be good, then it's Q. That's so absurd. It's so absurd. Okay. So these are also from public sources. This is Rasmussen reports again, fall of the machines. It says Smartmatic was federally indicted on October 16th, 2025. Dominion was sold in September under still secret terms. Their election systems currently in use here have reportedly been newly examined by federal authorities and are apparently full of illegal CCP source components. That's Chinese Communist Party, by the way. Tulsi Gabbard is being prevented from publishing her completed official report on this matter as of now. The former secret Dominion Huawei, China, the read that is China / Venezuela working together, data center in Belgrade that officially and emphatically did not exist officially, did exist and was disabled by US government employees just prior to the 2024 election. It has now been dismantled. Key engineers who reportedly designed and executed multiple foreign-based election frauds in America using Dominion and Smartmatic systems are here now under US government protection and recording first-person testimony, some of which I just read you. These engineers are joined by General Hugo Carvajal, former head of Venezuelan intelligence, now in jail in New York and cooperating with federal authorities. After ejecting over 24 traitors, our three-letter agencies are now supposedly helping find bad election actors, but they remain unreliable because of their own direct criminal involvement in past election frauds. Official state and court adduced evidence of election fraud has been compiled now for every one of the 2020 battleground states, but cowardice and corruption within the American judiciary has completely paralyzed justice. But remember, we just had some breakthroughs in Georgia around that. I'm sure we're going to see some others. So it's not dead in the water yet. The Department of Justice has been forced to sue multiple states to require their compliance with federal election laws. President Trump pardoned Tina Peters, but Colorado officials refused to release her from their prison. Her role as a federal officer in their state election is apparently something Colorado wants to litigate. Her health declines. She's been held this whole time. That's like a whole thing I'm still not fully caught up with or in touch with, but I remember that it's horrible. An American armada, the likes of which has never been assembled in this century, sits off the coast of Venezuela, aka American Election Theft Central. The Armada is currently engaged in an offshore economic and drug blockade, but land-based initiatives are promised. Remember, the drug thing, it's easy to say you're going after, right? It's just like they just said this, for security reasons, the Pentagon stopping, wind farms. It's like, sure, say whatever you need to say. Say that we're going after drugs in Venezuela. I don't care, right? If that's what you need to do in order to get around the corruption in our own government, in order to try to stop the corruption in our own government, by all means, let's do it. But again, people think this can't possibly be true because it might be too cute and it might be too like wondering if Trump could actually be doing something good at some point for someone. Which is crazy. You're so stuck in black pill delusion you can't even ask yourself the question. Now let's take it another step. You're so jaded that you can't even pretend to hope that maybe somewhere, someday, something good could happen. That's crazy. You're lost, dude. It's not actually intelligent to say because it's happened so much, it's all that could ever happen. That's crazy. You've never seen a corrupt something be cleaned up before. We have seen that. We just saw it in El Salvador. We just saw it. We see it in El Salvador. Is it there? It's done. They did it. So it's crazy. People are so broken that they can't even think that perhaps this is actually, you can go find, by the way, all the documents about this. You can go and look into the whole Smartmatic Dominion voting thing with this China and Venezuela, and you could see it playing out. None of it's made up. The only thing you're then asking yourself is that actually why we're attacking Venezuela? And you can say, fucking, of course it is. Why would we go after just their oil out of the whole world when we've got plenty and we don't need any and we're doing fine? Why? For drugs? No, then we would be going off of, again, all sorts of countries we could go after for just drugs. Why them? Yeah, all right. Well, that's the only real reason why them is the cartel of the sun and Smartmatic. So, all right, enough about Venezuela. Hopefully you're getting the clue about what's going on with that. Trump said he ordered powerful and deadly military strikes against Islamists in Nigeria for killing Christians. I hope so. I saw some videos from some people who are allegedly Nigerian Christians, and they sounded and looked like Nigerian Christians, and the quality seemed to be what you might imagine a Nigerian Christian would be streaming out. And they were so grateful. They were like, yeah, if that's how President Trump can help protect us, thank God, no one else is. People are just being slaughtered left and right in this massacres, and this is the only person who seems to care. So he came in and struck these people down, like, thank God. So I like it. I call that a win too. Strike them down. Trump-class Golden Fleet battleship construction won't begin until the early 2030s. I don't know why. We're lagging, man. Our infrastructure and our military is lagging. Give it a boost. U.S. Supreme Court rejects Trump's deployment of National Guard troops to Chicago in a 6-3 ruling. I don't really get what that means. They were already there. So I guess he has to take them back. It's not a final ruling, they said. It's an order. And it adds to the challenges that Trump faces in deploying them to Democratic-led cities. So there were some dissenters, Alito, Thomas, and Gorsuch. The ruling signifies a setback, but that doesn't mean it's over. So it's a order, but not a final ruling. So that seems not as bad as it sounds. And I don't know. We'll see. Blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Trump admin to begin garnishing wages of defaulted student loan borrowers in January. That's not like a new thing. It's just something that, again, the Biden administration maybe stopped doing because they want to cater to people who don't want to take responsibility for themselves. That's their whole base. And so we're just going back to what was always happening. So there's that. A small Mexican Navy plane crashed on a medical mission near Galveston, Texas, killing at least 5. Mexican Navy in Galveston, Texas. Interesting. And China loaded more than 100 ICE intercontinental ballistic missiles into silo fields. All right. Cool. The Pentagon officially enters into an agreement with xAI, building on the rapid deployment of cutting-edge AI across the department's $3 million military and civil personnel. Sorry, just $3 million, not dollar. $3 million military and civilian personnel. Cool. So all the military will have access to cutting-edge AI. It's great. Trump grants $2.1 billion to Nigeria to help prevent HIV, tuberculosis, malaria, and polio. Sure. Swiss court to hear landmark climate case against cement giant Holcim, saying that an Indonesian island is being swallowed by rising sea levels, and as the cement industry is responsible for around 8% of annual CO2 emissions, it should be held accountable. This company hasn't owned any cement plants in Indonesia since 2019. By the way, that is absolutely not happening. There's nowhere in the world where you can prove that the sea level is rising. So it's not rising in Indonesia either. So it's just a stupid, pointless case for no reason. Russia's deputy foreign minister offers to confirm in a legal agreement that Russia has no intention of attacking either the EU or NATO military alliance. Good. U.S. senior diplomats and ambassadors in 29 countries have been told their tenure will end in January. Adding to these layoffs, man, there they go. I bet they want different people in there. DHS has tripled its exit bonus for undocumented migrants who self-deport from $1,000 to $3,000 if they leave by December 31st. Oh, I'm a little late. I wonder how many people took advantage of that. Hopefully a ton. Get out, take your $3,000 and go. It's like a game show. You got here, you did whatever, and now you get your $3,000 for making it this long, and then you leave. Oh, we have this giant sinkhole. We're talking about those ones in Turkey, which are crazy. There's like 1,000 of them, and they're huge. So that's a massive issue. But this is a UK canal collapse. It looks like a sinkhole. It looks like a pretty deep sinkhole. Yep, a 50-meter sinkhole opened up. Sinkholes, man. Geomagnetic excursion ongoing. Let's see how many of these we can just fly right through. They have this new energy dome. It's a CO2 battery. It gains traction globally. The CO2 battery is a novel, long-duration energy storage system using a large inflatable dome to hold 2,000 tons of supplied carbon dioxide in a closed loop. It looks like a big building, sort of like those outdoor like skating rinks or soccer things, are like kind of bubbly looking, like they're filled with air. It looks like that, but quite long, much longer. And that's cool. I mean, if that works and it's not like trapping too much CO2 from our environment, which we actually need in order to survive and thrive, and we get energy from that, and it's some sort of like free energy, that'd be great. So I like that. I like that a lot. Oh, I already wrote about this on my Substack. If you want to read about Erica Kirk and her supposed ex-boyfriend that she didn't date before Charlie Kirk, who has a pizza tattoo on his lip, go check it out on Substack. A British man was fined £200 for spitting out a leaf that blew into his mouth. Again, I thought this was like AI nonsense. The picture clearly is AI generated, but I went and looked and no, there's actually a guy who has had to fight this fine because a leaf blew into his mouth and he spit it out, and they fined him for littering. I'm not joking. There is literally no way you could make me pay that. That would not be getting paid. I'm not paying you for a leaf flying into my mouth, you idiots. Climate scientists were very vocal about ocean warming in 2023, but they remain silent now that 90% of the warming has been undone. They're like, it went up, and then it's went down 90% of that, and they're still saying everything is, of course, they only pay attention to things that support their supposed line that climate catastrophe is coming for all of us. They ignore all the things that don't indicate that, or that are the antithesis of that. Oh, goodness. So we talked about the Georgia state election board admitting that it had 315,000 fraudulent votes, or votes that shouldn't have been counted. There was more than enough to have flipped the election to Trump. So there's already one state that shows that that election wasn't correct, which we all knew if you're paying any attention. Got that. Got that. 221 dead people received federal assistance in Colorado this year. So there's an audit going on to get them off the list. Fentanyl has been listed as a weapon of mass destruction. Even Republicans are mad about this, not because they want fentanyl, but because it's not a weapon of mass destruction. But it kind of is. I see it. China especially is the one that's attacking us with fentanyl. Labeling it that way helps us to defend ourselves. So I'm okay with that. I get that the entirety of drug laws and rules are ridiculous, but so is the world. So fifth generation warfare calls for a little slightly different approaches, right? So we may need that as a weapon of mass destruction in order to defend ourselves more easily. And what else we got here? COVID injections are shown to kill you. We all knew that. The childhood schedule is under more and more attack recently. That's great. We hope it disappears. Take that as a win. Yeah, the U.S. is planning to stop recommending most of those vaccines. It doesn't mean that people will just automatically stop taking them. It just means they won't be recommended. Doctors still get to get their stupid kickbacks and try to kill your children for money, and all that's still going to happen. But the potential is there for less doctors and less people to fall into the trap. So that's good. It's huge, actually. It's another thing. People are like, Trump hasn't done anything he said he's going to do. I'm like, I think he's done everything he said he's going to do. I don't know, because I didn't care what he said he was going to do. So I'm not quite sure. But everything I seem to remember him talking about has definitely been being done. So it's just weird. It's weird to me. I've been hearing people say that the whole time. And I'm like, I guess I don't know. I guess I do know, but I don't think of the world the way you do. So I'm like, well, he's deporting people. There seems to be huge amounts of layoffs and shakeups all across the federal world. There's all kinds of fraud that's been being done. The Epstein files have come out. There's all kinds of, wars that have been toned down at least and stepped back. Venezuela is, of course, being hiked up, but again, if you even pay any attention to the voting thing, then that makes perfect sense and is also what he said he was going to do. So I don't know. I'm not a diehard Trumper, and I'm not a diehard anti-Trumper, so I'm not in that debate. But yeah, That's what people are saying. The Pentagon failed its audit for the 8th year in a row. I would have thought it would have been like the 40th year in a row, but I don't know. Amnesty International calls for government to stop the German-owned Portuguese-flagged ship from docking at their ports, carrying 440 tons of military components destined for Israel. All right. Well, that's not going to happen. But good job, Amnesty International. The U.S. imposes sanctions on 7 associates and family members of Nicolas Maduro, the Venezuelan dude. Good. Get him. Trump announces the most favored nation drug pricing deals with 9 pharmaceutical companies to help lower medication costs for U.S. patients. Actually good for actual people. Call it a win. Hopefully nobody takes any pharmaceuticals, but if you must, or if you have to, or if you do, or if people need to, then of course that's good for us. Trump Department of Justice admits it will miss the Epstein release deadline. It did release things, just not all of them. It's redacting them heavily, obviously, etc. Oh. Well, let's just see what this is. Man, that's a good tea. You guys wish you had this tea. You should get this tea. I don't get anything from it, but it's Blue Lotus chai. They're hecka good. Hecka good. It's like a powder. You mix it in, right? Hot water. It's black tea and then a ton of really good spices, good for your digestive system. You can get just the herbs without the tea too. I think they do a green tea one as well. Anywho, U.S. Attorney Office of Minnesota thinks that tens of billions of dollars have been stolen in the fraud. Oh yeah, we knew that. That's just getting bigger and bigger, that number. This is funny. Beachy Head Lady, a Roman-era skeleton, hailed in 2016 as UK's first Black woman originating from sub-Saharan Africa, was actually a local girl with blonde hair and blue eyes, a new study shows. They want so badly to insert their DEI worldview into every possible place that they make mistakes like this. I don't even know if it was a mistake or they just want to do it. You don't have to lie about the world in order to love people, dude. God, people are so weird. Oh, we already knew that. Okay, there was some hacking in the UK, don't care. That judge in Wisconsin that helped the guy sneak out the back door to try to get away from ICE, well, she's been found guilty of obstruction of justice and she will be sentenced, which is awesome. She'll at the very least be disbarred. She looks like she should be disbarred. See, it's always a female judge. That nuclear scientist murdered, the MIT nuclear scientist that was murdered in Boston and the Brown University shooter were supposedly connected. They at least went to school at the same time in Lisbon, Portugal, at the same school, which is very random. By the way, as I told you, that MIT nuclear scientist who was murdered was also working on plasma physics and the pole reversal and the fact that cataclysm happens cyclically on Earth. Just so happened to be that person. He's dead now. Australia launches the gun guy buyback after the Bondi Beach shooting again, because less guns absolutely will cause more murders, and that's what they want because they hate you and they want you dead. All right. The House passed Marjorie Taylor Greene's bill to criminalize transgender surgeries on minors, which is awesome. More progress on this, please. Let's protect children from psychopath surgeons and psychopath parents. Don't care about this. Oh, we're done. Last thing. Authorities confirm NASCAR legend Greg Biffle, along with his family, have died. Oh, that's sad. I thought it was going to be a good thing. Have died in a private jet crash in North Carolina. Oh, very sad. Well, I didn't know him at all. If you did, I'm sorry that you lost Greg Biffle and his family. God bless them as they enter the light. And that's the news. I thought it was going to take a lot longer because I think it's been 2 weeks since I've done a winning report. So I guess it's a slow news time of year, and that's just my luck. So that's good. We got through it in not too much time. I want to emphasize again that 2026 is going to be better than you think. That this is not the time to fall into the like, woe is the world and woe is me and everything's bad and oh, nothing good could happen. This is not the time to be in that mindset. The time to be in that mindset is actually never. But especially now, what is best called for is you doing everything you can in order to feel, be, think of, and create the goodness around you and focus on that, because it is always what has mattered most. And it is also that which changes the world best. So continue to do that for yourself. Go sign up for your 2026 tarot reading right now. Get yourself a full hour immersion into the coming year for yourself. See what's coming at you and how best to orient yourself towards it, how best to celebrate it, get ready for it. And until you book your 2026 tarot reading and I see you face to face, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first.
Glued to them screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood wands of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. The hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your